On the air bridges of 215, I could feel them breathing down my neck, and the lights would switch themselves off. I would shout at them to turn the lights on now. I am in no mood, and they would come on. There were lots of stories from workers. I was told of ghost children running up and down the old 214 air bridge and laughing.
I don't know what it was. It was a flying saucer or what it was. It wasn't an airplane. It was not an airplane. It was down awfully low.
You are listening to Pursuit of the Paranormal podcast with your host, Ash Ellis.
Welcome back to Pursuit of the Paranormal with me, your host, Ash Ellis. Sorry there hasn't been a new episode for a couple of weeks. An injury left me bedridden and in and out of hospital for a couple of weeks, and I was unable to record or edit any new episodes, but I think we're over the worst of it, so it's right back to it. Huge thanks to everybody that sent best wishes and messages of support. Few of you know what was up, so yeah, thank you to everybody that did, and I appreciate you all. I hope you're all doing very well. Happy to be back and recording this episode, which is a pretty interesting one. So this week's episode will either have you thinking twice before your next flight, or have you looking at holidays to book as soon as possible, depending on how you look at it, especially if it passes through Manchester Airport. So we're going to be talking about a number of both ghostly tales and UFO sightings from the third biggest airport in the UK, which is Manchester, with its 28 million passengers served annually. Lying 7 miles southwest of Manchester city centre, the airport, originally called Ringway, opened in 1938 and was used as a base for the RAF during World War II. After rapid growth and expansion, the airport now has 3 passenger terminals along with a cargo terminal, serving 200 destinations worldwide and up to 61 flights departing or arriving per hour. I live not too far from the airport, and my partner used to live right next to the boundary fence of the airport in Wythenshawe, and there's a lot of flights. Every minute there's flights taking off and landing, and they're very loud right over the tops of the houses down that area of Manchester. But what if I told you that this seemingly ordinary airport could be the most haunted airport in the UK and one of the most haunted places in Greater Manchester itself, particularly around Terminal 3? So let's take a journey back, starting as far back as the 1970s, when reports of ghostly encounters at the terminal first began. It's not just a few spooky stories either. Testimonies from airport staff over the years have been chilling. Many, both current and former, admit that they're too creeped out to enter Terminal 3 alone at night. They report feeling like they're constantly being watched, sudden drops in temperature, and even sightings of ghostly figures that, just as quickly as they appear, melt into thin air. Doors are heard to be slamming, and lights flickering on and off, but when workers go to investigate the strange noises and occurrences, they are met with dark, freezing rooms. And when I say freezing, I mean cold enough to see your breath in the air. Yet the room is still and silent, almost like a mill pond at night. Some staff have even reported hearing blood-curdling screams echoing from somewhere deep within the terminal, when the place is empty of travellers in the early hours. When it comes to explanations for these creepy occurrences, there's a few theories. The first, and perhaps the most plausible, has to do with the land itself. Terminal 3 was built on what used to be the RAF Ringway base during World War II, which was home to the 613 Manchester Squadron, and many brave pilots took off from here, never to return. Could it be their spirits still wandering the terminal? Others attribute the hauntings to a night security guard who was reportedly killed in the 1960s. Although there's less evidence supporting this theory, some say his restless spirit still roams the terminal after dark. And then there's the land's original owner, a farmer whose presence is said to still linger in the atmosphere. Perhaps his spirit never left when the land was transformed into an airport. Now, let's dive into some of the most documented encounters. These aren't just hearsay. Archived reports dating back to the 70s shows staff repeatedly experiencing ghostly encounters in one particular area around the Terminal 3 departure gates, which officially opened in 1989. The most common sighting is that of a male figure dressed as an airman wandering the gates. People try to approach him, but as they do, he simply vanishes. Some who've seen him say he either looks confused, almost like he's lost, trying to find his way, or more unsettling is the look on his face of pain, as if he's reliving his last moments over and over again. One of the eeriest stories comes from 1971. Airport management received a resignation letter from a former employee who left without any explanation. He wrote that the reason he fled his job was an encounter with the ghost of an elderly man wearing an airport security uniform. When he tried speaking with the figure, the man disappeared right before his eyes. Terrified, the staff member never returned, and I don't blame him. Since then, several other employees have reported similar sightings, glimpses of a ghostly night watchman, believed he was a security guard in the 1960s, who tragically died of a heart attack whilst on duty. A cleaner reported seeing the apparition in the storeroom, walking through offices and gliding along a corridor, with strange noises and footsteps heard as well as the movement of office supplies. In one instance, the airport managers were so concerned that an intruder was on the premises that they called the police, with one of those police officers claiming to actually see the phantom man. But the strange encounters don't end there. One worker described seeing a semi-transparent figure wearing a pilot's hat late one night. The figure walked into the toilets and the door shut behind him. There were no flights scheduled and there's no reason for anyone to be there at that hour. The worker went to investigate, but the toilets were empty. Even creepier, the motion sensitive lights hadn't turned on, as if nobody had entered at all, despite the fact that the guy saw him going into the bathroom. In other reports, men have reported hearing a loud pounding on the stall door, followed by an impatient voice demanding that they hurry up. Yet when they open the door in the toilet, no one's there. And if you think the hauntings are confined to the terminals, think again. I got in touch with a now retired airport worker, and she told me that Terminal 2 was also haunted. Here's what she had to say.
On the air bridges of 215, I could feel them breathing down my neck, and the lights would switch themselves off. I would shout at them to turn the lights on now. I am in no mood, and they would come on. There were lots of stories from workers. I was told of ghost children running up and down the old 214 air bridge and laughing. The old cleaning manager was a medium and could see they were laughing and pointing at people jumping off the Terminal 1 car park. I knew the old departures area gave off a creepy vibe, even during the day when it's quiet.
Very creepy. A few reports speak of something even more bizarre, however. A procession of Roman soldiers, clad in full battle gear, marching near the landing strips. The sightings were so realistic that, on at least one occasion, planes weren't allowed to land or take off until it was confirmed that the soldiers weren't actually there. Let's not forget about one of the old maintenance hangars. After the tragic 1985 British Air Tours disaster, the hangar was used as a temporary mortuary, with many employees who worked there reporting strange, unexplained occurrences, though few are willing to talk about it in detail. So that's just a few of the more unusual cases and reports out of Manchester Airport, mostly around Terminal 3, but that's not all. Obviously, you guys should know by now I'm a UFO guy, and there are quite a lot of UFO reports from the area. So we're going to talk about a famous one, quite a famous one, and also some reports that have been made directly to us, to UFO Identified, my UFO research group. And we'll see if there's any kind of link between it. Is it the area that is causing it? Is it the land? What is actually making all these things happen? These crazy, scary occurrences, as well as multiple many UFO reports. It was just after 6 p.m. on January the 6th, 1995. Manchester Airport, as we know, one of the busiest in the UK, was operating under typical conditions. The evening sky was dark, the air crisp, and the traffic control room was monitoring the steady stream of inbound and outbound flights. But that night, something happened that would break the routine and become the subject of intense speculation. High above the city, a British Airways Boeing 737 carrying 60 passengers was making its final approach to Manchester Airport, having travelled from Milan in Italy. The captain, Roger Wills, along with his first officer, Mark Stewart, were performing the standard landing procedures. But as they descended through 4,000 feet, something caught their attention. A fast-moving, glowing object appeared out of nowhere, heading straight towards their aircraft. The object was unlike anything the pilots had seen before. It was large, brightly lit, and moving at an incredible speed. The lights on the object were so intense that the pilots could clearly see them even through the aircraft's cockpit window. Captain Wills said it was illuminated with a number of small lights, making it look like a Christmas tree. The first officer instinctively ducked when he saw what he described as a dark object pass down the right-hand side of the aircraft at high speed. It was wedge-shaped with what could have been a black stripe down the side, he said, feeling sure that what he saw was a solid object, not a bird, balloon or kite. What was most alarming, however, was that the object seemed to be on a direct collision course with the airplane, which did pass within 100 feet of the 737. It was a near miss, an incident that, under other circumstances, could have ended in disaster. Immediately after the encounter, the shaken pilot radioed Manchester Air Traffic Control to report what had just happened. The air traffic control team were puzzled. According to their radar screens, there was no other aircraft or object anywhere near the British Airways flight. The skies should have been clear, yet the pilot was adamant about what he had seen. This lack of radar confirmation is one of the most perplexing aspects of this incident. Radar systems at major airports like Manchester are incredibly sophisticated, designed to detect anything in the airspace from commercial jets to smaller private planes, as well as weather balloons and drones. But on that night, the radar showed nothing unusual. So what did the pilot see? And how could something that appeared so vividly to the human eye be completely invisible to radar? Following the incident, the CAA, the Civil Aviation Authority in the UK, launched an investigation, given the seriousness of the near miss. It was essential to determine what had happened and whether it posed a threat to air safety. Despite a thorough inquiry, the CAA was unable to provide a definitive explanation. They reviewed the radar data, interviewed the pilots, and analysed the eyewitness reports, but nothing conclusive emerged. Several theories were proposed. Some suggested that the pilots might have seen a meteorological phenomena, perhaps a meteor or a rare atmospheric event. Others speculated that the object could have been space debris or a missile re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. A more sceptical view was that the pilots misidentified a conventional aircraft or even a reflection of lights from the ground. However, these explanations seem unsatisfactory given the pilot's experience and the dramatic nature of the encounter. Like the first pilot ducked. That's how he thought he was going to hit him. He actually ducked. So I don't think this is lights reflecting off the ground. To this day, Manchester Airport UFO remains unsolved. The pilots involved have stuck to their story, and the lack of any official explanation has only fueled speculation, with many people talking about this case as quite a good one that, like I say, remains unexplained. And again, with radar, well, I don't say radar evidence, but the lack of radar evidence, but with these trained witnesses, people that are in the sky a lot, they have a lot of flying hours, for them to not know what they saw leaves this 1995 sighting really, really peculiar. And you can read the reports, you can read the CAA report of this encounter, You just Google it. You can download the report and read it. The actual outcome of the investigation, which, like I say, was unexplained. You can read the transcript from the pilots and air traffic control. In fact, let me just read a little section of this. So, this is the pilot and the air traffic control having a conversation just after the event. So the pilot saying, "We just had something go down the RHS just above us, very fast, right hand side." Air traffic control, "Well, there's nothing seen on radar. Was it an aircraft?" "But it had lights. It went down the starboard side, very quick." "And above you?" Just slightly above us, yeah." "Keep an eye out for something. I can't see anything at all at the moment, so it must have been very fast or gone down very quickly after it passed you, I think." Okay, well there you go. And that's the last words of Captain Wills to air traffic control before they then completed the landing safely at Manchester Airport. So that's that one. And what's interesting about this one is the description of Christmas tree. You remember that's kind of how the pilot described it, many small lights similar to a Christmas tree. So I'm now going to talk about a case that's reported to UFO Identified from the 4th of December 2022, so just coming up to 2 years ago. And this is in Didsbury, Greater Manchester, just a couple of miles north of Manchester Airport. So the witness was at home and walking up the stairs when she saw, through a large landing window that faces out the back of the house, 2 upright triangles covered in bright separate lights low in the sky, directly facing her. The triangles were moving at a constant speed slowly across the sky, similar but slightly slower than the speed of the airplanes which travel overhead of their property from the nearby Manchester Airport. Both triangles moved off in a northwesterly direction and out of view due to nearby houses. After briefly leaving the window to contemplate what she had seen, the witness returned to the window and spotted 2 more triangles similar to the first 2. They followed the same path as the initial pair, moving from the northeast to the northwest, but eventually disappeared from view again due to neighbouring houses. And this is what she told me.
"I was in a state of shock, so much so that after seeing the first 2 through the window, I just walked into my bedroom and immediately thought, 'What?' I went back to the window with my phone and saw the second 2 coming around above the bungalows opposite me. I opened the window, but my hands were shaking so much that I couldn't take a photo."
The witness describes the triangles as looking like Christmas trees floating in the sky, with the singular point of the triangle at the top of the craft, and estimated to be around half the size of a commercial airplane. They were gliding slowly with very bright orange-yellow lights all over it, and the triangles were big enough to see that the lights were individual and extremely bright. Very similar to what Pilot Will saw. This Christmas tree shape triangles. Imagine, because it's an upright triangles, most triangle UFO reports that we get, they tend to be obviously like we're looking at the underneath of a triangle, it's like flat to us. Whereas this one and the Boeing 737 sighting, it's like a triangle coming at them, like it's a stood up triangle, like a Christmas tree. And again, the lights, lots of lights all over it, like a Christmas tree.
I opened the window and there was 0 sound. I can usually hear the aeroplanes with my double-glazed windows closed, but there was no sound at all.
The whole sighting lasted between 10 and 12 minutes and left the witness with a headache that lasted a number of days, which she said that she doesn't usually get. She also felt that due to the appearance and movement of them, that the objects were under intelligent control. Really interesting case and quite a recent one. Obviously the airplane one was back in 95. This is 30 years later. Wow, that's a long time. But we can't discount how similar those descriptions are. Very, very unusual descriptions and very weird. So a couple more quick UFO reports. These are from the National UFO Reporting Centre and from MUFON. And these again are pretty recent ones. So just a quick fire with these sightings. December 17th, 2021 at 5 to 5 in the evening in Ringway, right near the airport, little village. 2 lights coming north to south in tandem with what looked like searchlights. No engine noise and they were visible for 2 minutes. August 28th, 2023 at 6:45 in the morning near Manchester Airport, witness reported a bright star object moving extremely fast suddenly turned horizontal, then hovered for a few minutes before speeding off and disappearing, and that was saw for 4 minutes. May the 18th, 2024 at 20 to 12 in the morning, object flying 100 feet above a plane that had just taken off from Manchester Airport. It was described as white with 3 windows along the middle, around the size of a van, and cylinder shaped, and that was visible for around 1 minute before it disappeared from view. And just a bit of a longer one, so going back to Saturday 25th September 2021, this was at 2:10 in the afternoon. So most of these reports are in daytime, apart from one at 5 to 5 in the evening, which was in December, so that would have been dark at that point. All the others would have been in daylight hours. Again, something that doesn't matter if it's nighttime or daytime. We get a lot of reports in daytime. Our data shows that over 40% of sightings are actually reported during daylight hours. So it doesn't have to be nighttime when you see UFOs. So this was a case from Stockport in Greater Manchester to the east of Manchester Airport, and the witness was actually observing airplanes landing at the airport when they spotted a bright star-like object which was moving erratically in a tight circle, spinning around at a constant speed for approximately 3 minutes. The object was seen with both the naked eye as well as through binoculars and was described as small, about the same size as the North Star, but its brightness was pulsating, changing from sparkling to dull whenever the sun shone on it. The witness estimated the object to be around 4,000 feet in the air and approximately 7 miles away from their location in Marple, looking towards the airport.
It was star-like and pulsating. I think it could have been a drone with sparkling lights to make it look like a UFO, or it could have been a silver balloon spinning around it, but the way it moved was not consistent with either of these possibilities, and drones aren't allowed that close to the airport. I've checked the local papers and there are no reports about any strange sightings at the same time.
The weather conditions at the time of the sighting was broken clouds, windy, dry, and with good visibility. There were no other unusual activities noticed in the area, and the witness couldn't hear any sound associated with the object. Despite its small size, the object's erratic movements made it difficult for the witness to estimate its speed accurately. It disappeared suddenly from view, like a light being switched off, after about 3 to 5 minutes, leaving the witness feeling shocked and baffled by the sighting. So that's just a few UFO reports from the area. I always try to keep things recent with most of this stuff, just because I think that's more relevant. People can relate to it a bit more, rather than talking about lots of stuff from the 70s, 80s, 90s. We do like to try and keep things a bit more current here at the Pursuit of the Paranormal, and that UFO Identified, in fact. And if you do want to find out more about the UFO sightings, make sure you check out ufoidentified.co.uk, and we have the biggest database of current day UFO reports reported in the UK, so make sure you check that out. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed these stories, these reports, these ghostly goings on at the terminal, these strange lights and Christmas trees being seen in the sky. Very, very strange indeed. Quite a short episode this week, like I say, recovering from injury, being bedridden, but it's good to be back, and we have some amazing interviews lined up coming up in the next few weeks. So make sure you subscribe, hit follow, give us a review, give us a rating, it all helps. Thanks again for listening. We are back, and we've also got a Paranormal Roundtable coming up with Michaela and some of our friends joining us, talking different things in the paranormal and some recent developments and sightings that have been made and that have also made the news in the UK and around the world actually. So yeah, make sure you check that out, and I will see you all very soon. Have a great day, evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are, and I'll speak to you soon. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to Pursuit of the Paranormal with Ash Ellis. Title music created by Steve Yarwood and Ambienfinity. If you like the show, please follow us on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, X, and Instagram. And if you really like the show, please rate and review the show wherever you are listening. It really does help. See you next time, and until then, stay weird.